Manhattan, whatever that is, the Saturday before that. I think it's the 5th.
So the 12th is a Saturday, so the 5th is also a Saturday?
Yeah.
And what's the venue in Manhattan?
Anti-Maze.
Got it.
Which I've played solo. The band, and this is so funny, like nobody in my band has ever played in Manhattan. I'm like, what? So that'll be fun. I love Anti-Maze. Jeff Denny, the owner there, is great.
So that's going to be our intro. Nobody in Erratic Cowboys played in Manhattan before. But check out the band Til Willis and Erratic Cowboy in Manhattan at Andy Mays on April 5th. In Lawrence at Lucia, album release show for Glass Cactus. Album release show for Glass Cactus on April 12th. Glass Cactus, the album from which we're listening to side 2 tonight, comes out on March 27th. My guest is Til Willis. I'm Howie Howard from Mr. Furious Records, and you are listening to Dat Fury Radio, a collaborative production of Mr. Furious Records and Datura Records out of Lawrence, Kansas. Til, let's just go ahead and kick off side 2 with Smells Like Honey.
Let's do it.
So this is one I'm excited to see the lyrics laid out. You're speaking very directly about something, and I don't. I guess I'll start in the same place as I did with side 1. I don't want to demystify it too much, if that deflates the song. You know what I mean?
No, I know what you mean. It is kind of plain spoken in a way that I'm a little reticent to talk about exactly what it means.
Sure.
But suffice it to say, I mean, it involves medical stuff that involves, a kid, and, I don't think my daughter would like me talking about it too much because she gets embarrassed, but it, obviously something that hits hard. And you don't want it to be you don't want it to be too specific that like it only pertains to that. So like after this was recorded and everything, our drummer Austin, he one of his kids had a accident, and it became a song that he could relate to. And you just, I don't think you've got to have kids to have the empathy, but to know it. But it is speaking more to a parent's kind of, wanting to make things good for your kids when things really go wrong.
Yeah, and you... plain spoken was the perfect word, because it's definitely not. I'm not trying to press you about the content whatsoever. What I was saying is, I'm excited to just see the lyrics, because lyrics I don't catch them all the first time, right? I don't catch them all the second time. I kind of, if I'm really going to dig into the lyrics of something, I need to sort of see it.
Sure.
It's that plain spokenness that really jumped out at me. It just felt like a little bit of a different mode. It felt, I was interested in it, but it felt like something a little bit different.
Yeah. It is a little different than the other songs on this record. It's also got Nate again, this time playing electric piano, which to me had a cool kind of 70s Rolling Stones thing to it.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely a more plain spoken lyric. I'm not always somebody who writes very plain spoken directly to the subject of the song. I prefer to be a little more poetic about it, but sometimes certain emotions can only be expressed in a very plain spoken kind of way.
Yeah, I think that's a good edge to walk as writers. I mean, it's an edge that I'm interested in myself, and I've been on a long journey to try and push myself to be a little more plain and a little more open and not have to couch everything in layers of metaphor or
sure and
$5 words or whatever.
Yeah, totally. And you don't, but like I was saying, at the same time, you don't want to make it so specific to you that nobody else can penetrate that and relate. I'm also one that, and I can't remember who said it many years ago, some interview with some very famous, successful singer-songwriter who said something to the effect of, if you get to the point where you have to explain your song, you've already lost the battle, so you should probably start over again. Yeah. And so the fact that I could write this song and I know what it means to me, and I feel like it's pretty plain spoken right there, maybe that's not what everybody takes, but the fact that, Austin could hear it and then relate his own experience to that and go, oh, yeah, I now understand this song in a way I didn't beforehand or whatever. Yeah. So that's starts side 2 of the record, Glass Cactus.
Yeah. I think there's on the one hand, there's a trade-off between the universal and the specific, but I also think there is a win-win. It's not a zero-sum game there.
No.
And I'm going to use a real silly example just because it's on my mind because of a thread on an internet forum. But Mr. Brightside by The Killers is an enormous song. Right? It's like one of the biggest songs of the century so far.
Sure.
But you can also, and I don't know it well enough to like quote it exactly, but there's the thing about she's touching his chest and he takes off her dress now. That you can tell that Brandon Flowers, the singer, like that is a specific experience for him. He's thinking about someone and
sure
a way that he felt in a moment. And that combines with the chorus to like make this enormous thing that everyone can relate to on some level. So it's not a pure, just linear kind of tug of war between those things, but sometimes you can swirl them together and make them more than the sum of their parts.
And Dylan has talked about that, and so much of his work that, as a writer, you collect these things you've seen, you collect these things you've read as images in your mind, and when you go back to write them, you're not necessarily making them up on the spot. You're not just fabricating them, but you're having these half-remembered flashes that are just stuck in your brain. To where it's like, something like, your railroad gate, I just can't jump it. And it's like, on one hand, that could be just a silly way of saying I can't get close to you. But then there's another where it's like, there could have been this moment where he was trying to get over the railroad gate and just couldn't climb the damn fence. And it had nothing to do with this person he's talking about, but it became this metaphor. Coincidentally, you mentioned that the Killers, not a favorite band of mine. Nothing against them, it just never appealed to me. But actually, that leads me down two roads. One is that I'm a big fan of the Kills.
Right, different band, totally different band.
Totally. I think Jamie Hintz is one of my favorite guitar players, and Alison Moshart, amazing. But a buddy of mine, I told him I like the Kills, and he thought I said the Killers, and he's like, I can't believe Til likes the Killers. Also, I knew somebody who dated the drummer of the Killers before they were real famous, and she had some interesting stories.
Great drummer.
Yeah. Okay, this story behind this song, Circle, is I had written the lyrics, or the verses, and didn't have a chorus, didn't have any music. And I had this dream that I was in my hometown of Ouray, Colorado, but it was like not modern day, it was older. And Neil Young was there. And all these people were fawning over him, asking questions and wanting to know things. And I was kind of following behind the crowd going, I don't want to annoy him. And we got into this like saloon-like building. And Neil saw I was holding a guitar, an acoustic guitar, and I don't, it's dream logic, so the guitar just like appeared in my hands.
Sure, yeah.
And he goes, hey, can I see that? And I said, sure. I handed him the guitar, and he played the chorus of this song.
Oh, wow.
And I woke up and I remembered how it sounded, the chords and stuff, and I said, I'm like, oh man, that's kind of cool. It's very Neil Young, but whatever. I'm just going to lean into the fact that I had this dream about Neil Young, and he gave me the chorus of this song.
Yeah, I love that. And
it fit with the verses I already had, and so yeah, we just leaned into it being very Crazy Horse-like.
I didn't pick. It just sounded like a Til Willis and Erratic Cowboy song. The first
I love
time
that.
I heard it. I mean, I hear the Neil Young now, but it didn't jump out at me that way the first time.
It was an interesting dream to have a hero like that play and sing this chorus, and then he handed me the guitar back, and I woke up and remembered that bit of it.
That's a sign, man.
Yeah, it's the circle.
I love stuff that comes from dreams, and anytime I hear anything in a dream and I'm kind of waking up, I try and do a voice memo, and sometimes it's worth something and sometimes it's just incomprehensible. But
sure.
For me at least, the practice, if I get into a habit of it, I get better stuff and more stuff.
Sure.
So I've learned over time to not judge it in the moment, but just get it down and decide later if it's a keeper.
Oh, yeah.
It's too easy in that half awake thing to think, oh, well, I'll remember later, or this one isn't any good or whatever. And for me, at least, that then becomes the habit, and I stop getting stuff because I'm training myself to just fall back asleep instead of training myself to put it down.
I feel like over the years I've really trained myself to try to, when an idea comes to me for a lyric in particular, to really just say it again and again to myself, and until I have a chance to physically document it, be it in my phone or on a piece of paper. Because it's like, you never know, I was going to slip away and go, damn it, I let a good idea go.
Yep.
When we were recording this, like, so we recorded everything live in a room, and it's not a huge room that we were recording in the barn with this in the rehearsal studio. And because I was just doing a scratch vocal, I wasn't wearing headphones. Nobody was wearing headphones. We're just playing, and this one, they get so loud that I swear it felt like the walls themselves were moving in and out, and we got done. I think that one's it, you know, it just like... But it got back to something we talked about in episode 1, which is because we made the decision to play live in a room, and that song required us being loud. There's a lot of leakage, a lot of air bending going on. When it came time to mix, it was just, you know, you kind of had to just live with a lot of that. And I think that, but there's a lot of good glue there that really holds it together, and then piping it through the echo chamber of the dairy side of the barn. Again, just big heaping scoop of that in there too. And it really gave that kind of, I feel like this whole album, we kind of really leaned into a very kind of crazy horse vibe.
So you're saying that the scratch vocal is the final vocal?
Not on this one. No, okay. I re-overdubbed that later, but the music itself playing was just so, you know, I think we did this in one take. But the room just got so loud because the song just demanded we get that loud that, you know, it really felt like we were bending the walls.
Nice. So next up is Lost.
This is the third single off the album and the most recent to come out. Little oil can delay there.
And I should mention briefly, we mentioned it in episode 1, but there's 3 singles at tilwillis.bandcamp.com, and they all have a B-side that's not on the record, so it's worth going over there to hear the B-sides. And
the B-side for this one is a song called Hudson, which was actually written by Bradley McKillop, who plays with us, and it's a song he originally recorded with his old band Jasper. Okay. I just loved it. Like I said in the last episode, he has so many great songs. I wish he sang more of them these days. Great guitar player, somebody I'm always in awe of his guitar playing, but his lyric writing is great too. And so needing a B-side for this song, I was like, let's do that song Here's Hudson. So I kind of rearranged it in a different tuning and had him come in and play on that. And it came out just great. So it's the B-side. So yeah, check out the B-sides to 10 Miles of Days, Homecoming, Lost, all on Til Willis on Bandcamp. Yeah. This song features another guest musician, my good friend, Mr. Steve Faceman, who has the indie rock band Faceman, and he's the other half of the indie folk duo I'm in called Solo Hawk.
Oh, sure.
Which I guess we'll talk more about at the end of this episode. But
yeah, that's my plan. That's my
Steve,
secret plan that I shared with you at the beginning.
You know. Anyway, yeah, he was down. I was like, I think maybe if you could do a little bit of backup singing on the choruses, that'd be cool. So I sang a part, and he sang a kind of yelpy, shouty part, which he's great at. This is probably this and Horizon Before Us to Love are both probably the two most romantic songs, the true love songs on the record from different perspectives.
Good. Yeah, it was good to have a couple of those.
And I was watching a movie or TV show or something, and there was a line that said, if we get lost, we'll get lost together. And I'm like, well, that's beautiful. And so then I started basing it off of experiences, my wife and I have had for the verses. Brad on slide here, it's great. This is one that is straight up just the four of us. Austin Sinclair drums, Eric Binkley bass, Bradley McKillop guitar pan one way, me on guitar pan the other. This is a fun one to do live too.
If it works, why mess with it? This would be a good one for everybody to learn and sing along with, maybe.
Yeah. I'm all for that. You'll have a good sing along.
That'd be a good sing along. Outstanding. So I'm going to move right into Recovering Sunday, which is my other favorite song, along with 10 Miles a Days.
Oh, thank you.
And let's go ahead and let a good minute and change go by. I really want people to...
This is another one that features some stuff by Chance and by Nate.
Cactus, put it up in the window, watched it sparkle around the room, drinking cold water for bad choices, and then echoing voices.
So when I gave this my first listen last night, I put on the headphones, I had my cat on my lap, and just did the whole thing. And when I got to this point in the record, the groove just immediately jumped out at me as something cool and different, but feeling very right. And I think... I want to shout out Eric in particular on that. I think that winding bass line just makes it.
Yep.
And then also, as you get into the lyrics and the album title comes in with, some more story surrounding it, that's just like, that felt like a huge payoff in an almost like kind of cinematic way that this Chekhov's gun has been on the mantle for 8 songs and disappeared and finally goes off, you know? And
Sure.
That just really paid off nicely.
This is a pandemic song, although in the last 4.5 years, it could be about any day. On the TV, they're counting the deceased, you know?
Right.
And that's what that first verse hints at that. Like you're getting distraction from all the news that's going on. Second verse gets into some nostalgia, you know, with, you know, there's a VHS playing 1991. I was watching an old home movie that gets interrupted by something my brother and I recorded off of just TV, where, you know, like some Saturday morning cartoon, and like instantly all the melody and lyric for this commercial, I'm like, I could sing along with that, like it's a hit song. And then this third verse here.
When the gloves hit, you feel the impact, but you learn to float on your back.
Then it comes in with a John Prine reference here, which John Prine died of COVID during 2020, one of my heroes.
Right.
Here.
Unscrew the cap. Saturday knows the drill. With open arms, all will be received.
And then there's the double-edged thing about recovering Sunday, which is, you know, it's painted somewhat in the lyrics like it's somebody who's saying, hey, anybody wants to come up here and drink with me on Saturday, we can all recover on Sunday. The other side of recovering Sunday was I was listening to something, and I'm fairly agnostic these days. But I grew up, you know, Southern Methodist, and you always hear those people that say, oh, nobody honors this Sunday anymore, and what does that mean? I shy away from organized religion at all anymore. But maybe recovering Sunday as a day of grace and a day of restoration has nothing to do with any kind of religion. It's just a day of resetting, especially in troubled times, and having a day to meditate and reflect and go, nah, let me recover totally from the week, because you've got to have your days to blow off steam.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that has a huge, there's a huge, that's a huge thing in Jewish tradition, you know, regardless of metaphysical beliefs or whatever, but
Sure.
You know, the Sabbath in terms of just a practice.
Sure. You know, I've also, you know, appreciated the Jewish concept that, like, around New Year's isn't necessarily a time of celebration, but a time of personal reflection. You know, so many great ideas from so many different cultures out there, and, you know, to say any one of them is exactly right, I can't subscribe to that. There's so many wonderful things about a lot of them.
Yeah, I don't want to climb on a soapbox here, but I feel very much the same, and that's what, you know, I consider myself a Christian into my 20s, but eventually basically came to feel the same way, that there's just, how can I limit myself to the wisdom of one tradition?
Sure. Well, I was...
Even while appreciating that there can be a value in the deep dive
Sure.
that respects the wisdom of others.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
But even recognizing that path, finding for myself that wasn't the path for me, that I needed a wider set of influences.
So, in that regard, like just today I was speaking with my therapist and we were talking about reflection. And sometimes you can have a clearer reflection about your own life when you view it through somebody else's. And it led me to think about how I've always loved mostly reading biographical material, historical, biographical, particularly autobiographical, I love. Mainly because I love hearing about somebody else's experience. I love finding a way to commiserate in there with them. And, that it's led me to a greater feeling of empathy and wanting to know somebody else's story and understanding that there are a myriad of experiences in life. And I feel like that's something, one should aspire to while we're in our very short time we're here and walking around as meat sacks. And I will tie that into this last song, Natural Law, by just saying we all abide by certain laws of nature, and you accept certain laws of nature. Things die, things are born. As that relates to animals around us and to other people, here's Natural Law, closing out Glass Cactus.
While the crow steals the shiniest thing, the owl waits for the day to sing, and sparrows know Gershwin's the only thing to sing. The mouse surrenders to the natural law and forgives the eagle's claw. On the killing floor of the lawn, it doesn't matter, now he's gone. And you asked me to temper expectations with fire.
This was another one I asked Chance to come in and manipulate stuff on, and Brad provided this feedback pad, and I played acoustic and electric guitar and percussion, and Eric on bass. This is one Austin didn't play on, but I sent Chance the guitar solo I did at the end and was like, just manipulate the heck out of this. And so when it comes in, you hear what I recorded and then 3 different tracks of what Chance manipulated, kind of filling in the stereo field.
The sequencing is great too. I mean,
well, thank you. I always work hard at that.
Yeah.
I saw you yesterday. You were blowing either way. All your dirt roads were paved. You were locked in your own parade.
All your dirt roads were paved was a line I remember hearing as a kid. Some older person, so I was growing up in Mississippi, like saying something to the effect, "Oh, she walks like all her dirt roads are paved." It's like, that's just such a great line. It's got to come in somewhere.
There it is. Glass Cactus by Til Willis and Erratic Cowboy. Out March 27th at tilwillis.bandcamp.com, or presumably wherever you stream your music.
Yeah, wherever you stream, it'll be available. We'll also have vinyl copies and CD copies and the like.
Very nice. You can catch Til and the boys in Manhattan, Kansas at Annie Mae's on April 5th, or here in Lawrence at Lucia on April 12th. Now, in episode 1, we did tease / halfway giveaway a bonus track that I pitched to you. I don't have it to play on our monitors, so I'll just add it in later. But why don't we go out? Just give us 60 seconds or so on the project Rio Grande by your project Solo Hawk, and my favorite song from that project, Love is Torture.
So there's this place. It's called The Tank. It's in an extremely rural western Colorado that was a water tank. Originally built for the railroad. And when the railroad didn't need the water anymore, it was moved to Rangeley, Colorado, to be part of their fire defense. And they set it on a hillside outside of town, but the shale that they set it on was so soft, and the weight of this 7-story steel tower squished down and caved in the bottom. And so it wasn't structurally sound to hold water in. And for years it sat abandoned. And then in the 70s, this fellow who was studying acoustics, I believe for Boulder, came through and was looking for just taking sound samples. And he climbed inside and took some and loved it and started telling people about it. Well, years later, it needed to be saved. It was going to be torn down, and people from the recording school there at CU Boulder came in and set up a nonprofit to save it. And you can now record in the tank. And Solo Hawk, which is me and Steve Faceman, went there and recorded. And they keep microphones set up at various levels down this 7-story tall water tank you're in, to capture the natural reverb. It's like a full 1 minute delay all the way to the apex and back. And that ties into Glass Cactus, because, here I am again using natural reverb chambers there with the dairy side of the barn. And I just love that. I love the physicality. I love how a space can affect the music you make. And when Solo Hawk went to the tank, we had songs in mind that did not work there. They were too busy with the amount of delay and all that. We had to totally stop and just say, hey, let's try some different songs and different arrangements. And we had to work on the fly and adapt our music to fit the space we were in. And to some extent, that had to happen on Glass Cactus as well. When you're working in a space that is non-conventional, there it is. So that's probably over 60 seconds, but there's your lineup. Play your song, Howie. Thank you so much for having me. Glass Cactus out March 27th. We'll be at Lucia on April the 12th. So there you go. Cool.
Torture. concrete, yours are mine. Hands are concrete.